I think we are going to talk still a little bit more about Maha, the grand, the great. And this, I want to emphasize. You know, human beings have the tendency to create references. Human beings just have the tendency to compare, value, and subsequently sort of have this kind of preferences, I would say. So, you know, going back to Cinderella thing, it doesn't matter what story you tell to a baby to fall asleep. It could be Cinderella. If that works, fantastic. If that doesn't work, then Alice in the Wonderland. As long as it's doing its job, then it's fine. But down the line, the Alice in the Wonderland department will say, oh, Alice in the Wonderland is the best. Cinderella, oh, that's really lower school. We, the Alice in the Wonderland, are the better school. You understand? What we don't realize is that it doesn't matter whether it's a Cinderella or whether it's a Alice in the Wonderland. Both falls in the category of relative truth. He does not really mean it, remember? Buddha does not really mean it. All these are, skillful means. Out of compassion, to learn, to direct, redirect, to slowly bring in to the truth. So, I need to clarify this because somehow there's a lot of misunderstanding. Like, oh, Mahayana Buddhism is the Buddhism that is practiced in Japan, Korea, and China, and Tibet. See, this is what the anthropologists and the world historian and the geographical students, that's how they read these. Hinayana, actually the word Hinayana is actually a derogatory term, I feel. The lesser school. I have a feeling that this is actually a Mahayana chauvinist language. In fact, like my teacher have repeatedly told me, we should never use that word. We should use the word Sharvakayana or the Rutayana. Root. The methods that are taught in places like methods that are practiced now more sort of how should I put it? More established and more strongly practiced the Buddhist method in places like Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand is what we call Rutayana. They're the root. They're really the fundamental Buddha Dharma. So, you know, that the word lesser is, you know, we have to use it really with a lot of care here. Tonight, what I need to talk about Maha, having said all of this, I need to really define the word Maha. There is a reason why we use the word Maha. As it is stated just before the toilet break, When we were talking about the caste, remember the type, the Bodhisattva type. When we were talking about how to enroll yourself into, the club. If those who have read Vimalakirti Sutra, you will recall. Vimalakirti Sutra is actually, Vimalakirti Sutra, by the way, is a sutra that belongs to not Cinderella. Actually, that's quite a big deal sutra. That's actually, he means it. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, what did Buddha say? Buddha, well, not really Buddha. It's a dialogue between this, rich, filthy rich, oily hair, businessman called Vimalakirti, who is basically really, he's very rich. He's really like, he's really kind of, he's portrayed as, really this rich man, billionaire. You understand? Kind of. That's how it is portrayed in the Vimalakirti Sutra. Those who have read Vimalakirti Sutra, you should know that. And then the story is that Buddha, he got sick. And then because he's rich and he's powerful and he's so influential, everybody goes there to say, hi, how are you? Is everything okay? Do you need ginger juice? Do you want chicken soup? Whatever, doesn't matter. And the story is that everybody came, the gods, the asuras, the king, this king, that king, everyone. And Buddha, except the Buddha, and he had this, no words from the Buddha? And then Buddha, knowing that, sent, trying to send his disciples to, as an envoy to ask his well-being, to check on him. And everybody, one after another, refused to go to check onto this, this spoiled, rich, oily man. Because he was an impossible person. Anyway, that's the dialogue. The Vimalakirti Sutra is a dialogue between these guys. And in the Vimalakirti Sutra, if you recall, if those who have read, that there's a discussion about how the lotus never grow in a very, very clean water. That is such a beautiful statement. Lotus don't grow in the clean water. Lotus don't grow in the clean ground. Where does the lotus grow? Where there is a mud, where there is a filth, there the lotus grows. And that's the metaphor. What the sutra is trying to tell us is, where is the Buddha, where is the wisdom, where is the Buddhahood, where is the wisdom? Not in the clean place. Where there is filth, anger, jealousy, pride, there the wisdom will be found. That's what the sutra is trying to say. Now, that statement portrays the character of Maha. You understand? Mahayana Buddhism has got nothing to do with things that went to China or Japan. And, it's got nothing to do with that. It's really to do with the attitude, the view. This is how the Mahayana thinks. If I quote Maitreya, the same author, in fact, the same Maitreya spoke 5 different sets of teachings, and one of them is called Uttara Tantra. In the Uttara Tantra, he said that when the great Bodhisattva look at ordinary beings, and when they see ordinary beings, they don't, like when they see this, the filth, the anger, the jealousy, the defilements, Bodhisattvas only see as a potential. Bodhisattva does not get discouraged. Bodhisattva sees it as a potential. It's like a farmer being shoved in front with lots of free fertilizer. Finally I have some fertilizer here. Finally I can make something out of this filth. This is how the Bodhisattva thinks. You can see the Mahayana and Maha, the grand attitude. This sort of Mahayana don't make distinctions. Mahayana don't have this, this can't be used. This cannot be, this need to be got rid of. Mahayanas don't have that kind of view. Therefore, Mahayana can't have that kind of motivation. Therefore, Mahayana's, action, the attitude or the method, it becomes limitless. That is how this vehicle becomes a Maha. So, it's really important that we understand the sort of, at least some of us, we need to understand. I'm sure, the rest of the world will carry on thinking that what went to China is Mahayana Buddhism and what went to Thailand is the Shavakayana Buddhism. That's fine. They can carry on thinking that. But what some of us, we need to know is it is the view and it is the motivation that makes what is Mahayana. Okay, having said all of this, I'm going to do this stanza and then maybe we will wind up tonight, since it's just the beginning. I don't want to be too, I don't want to bombard you with too much information tonight. Having said all of this, there has been, this is true, there has been dispute over whether Mahayana Buddhism or the Mahayana, the path of the Mahayana is even taught by the Buddha. There is, if not dispute, there has been, that doubt, suspicion. So, as an answer to that, there's these stanzas, which I'll just quickly go through. Maitreya is saying here, well, there are medicines, for instance, that smells really bad and smells really, it's stinky and really difficult to take in if you are only using the nose as a sense. But if you brave through that, if you actually eat this medicine, then the taste is really, really good. I think, kind of reminds me the durian, right? Fruit. And in fact, even good for health. This is what Maitreya said. Likewise, Mahayana can be quite difficult to take in through certain angle, but if you can apply, if you break through, it can be very, really, it can be very delicious, it can be very fulfilling, and it can be very, very nutritious, and it can be very helpful for the health. It is quite hard for a lot of people to, it's very hard to hear the non-duality. Again, going back to the Cinderella thing. Lot of the people who are only equipped to hear the fairy tales. You can only upgrade your fairy tales. You understand it? And then slowly lure you into the more realistic stories. You understand? To give right at the beginning, raw, to the point, raw, naked truth will be very difficult to understand. I mean, for instance, like, I would say, okay, it's like this. If any one of us are here who have been hearing so much moral-oriented religious teachings, for instance, that has a lot of distinctions between what is good, what is bad, bad is bad only, good is only good, bad can never be good, good can never be bad, like really big distinctions. Outright, direct Mahayana teachings such as the Vimalakirti Sutra is very difficult to hear. Try talking to some people saying, I see some angry people, and then I actually saw that's a good news because, that means they have the potential to be the Bodhisattva. They will never understand what we are talking about. They would understand much easier if you say, he's a very, very short-tempered. He will never take a Bodhisattva vow. Oh yeah, that's right. He's really, his temperament is not good. He can never take the Bodhisattva path. You understand? We have already built ourselves into very judgmental and very, we are stuck with this kind of dualistic, moralistic, puritanical kind of habit. So to be exposed to this kind of grand Mahayana vision right from the beginning is difficult. So this is what Raja is saying. In the beginning, through one angle, maybe it's difficult. But if you can break through it, it is not only nice, but it could be very beneficial. And then also, okay, the other point is this. This is in relation to the so-called Sharvakayana. The Sharvakayana is a path that if you put enough effort, if you're diligent enough, you can basically get out of this entanglement in the samsaric world within 3 lifetimes and achieve what we call arhat stage. Okay, within three lifetimes. And here the Bodhisattva Yana is saying it takes 3 countless eons to achieve enlightenment. One would think, but that's not a good sales strategy. You understand? Here the Sharvakayana people say, hey, you can get the hell out of this samsara in 3 lifetimes. And here there's a Mahayana people say, hey, Bodhisattva path, 3 countless eons, after cutting a lot of your limbs and feeding a lot of hungry tigers, give up your children, give up your wives, husbands, give up your own head, and then finally after 3 countless eons you will achieve enlightenment. Oh, of course, sooner the better, right? You will immediately choose the Charvakayana path. So as an answer to that, the stanza is saying, well, actually, the Mahayana, when the Mahayana people talk about 3 countless eons, it's actually Mahayana bragging. You understand? It's actually not the opposite. It's actually Mahayana saying, hey, 3 countless eons, you chicken-hearted people, 3, try getting out of this, place within 3 lifetimes, that's like really short-sighted and chicken-hearted and, how can you, like a brave people do this? That's what the stanza is about. We are bragging about it. Okay. This has a lot of elements. So you will ask me, why is it a bragging? I mean, you can tell. How can it's a bragging? Here this is somebody who is giving almost the same thing within 3 lifetimes, and you are saying it takes 3 countless eons? That doesn't sound like that sounds like, your path is so slow and so painful. Here, again, going back to the word Maya. And for this I want to quote Prajnaparamita Sutra. This is what Buddha said, actually, when a Bodhisattva complained to the Buddha, after I think 1 countless eons, he went to the Buddha and said, look, I'm so tired, this is it. I'm not going to go through this anymore. And I've just finished only 1 countless eons. I have 2 more to go. This is so painful. I can't do this. I'm going to give up. And the Buddha's answer was this. From the time a Bodhisattva took the Bodhisattva vow, that is like the beginning of the countless eons, right at the beginning. And then the Bodhisattva goes to the 3 countless eons. And that last stage, the 10th bhumi, towards the end, next moment is the Buddha, okay? Next moment. And then, because Okay, next, this is important. You need to know this one. The next moment is the Buddha. But we are not talking about that. We are talking about just before that next moment. The Bodhisattva, the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva, the last moment, he can look back and then check how much time it went from the time he took the Bodhisattva until the last moment. Shakyamuni Buddha's answer in the Prajnaparamita Sutra is this. A fire, if you are making a fire, sometimes a spark comes and then dies. He said, the duration of a lifespan of a spark and 3 countless eons is same. What does this say? This say, Mahayana, again, time is relative. What do you mean by short and long? You understand? Whereas you guys, with this three lifetime, you are stuck with the 3 life. 3 life is so long. You understand? 3 lifetimes, that's so long. Our 3 countless eons and a duration of a spark is equal. Maha. The attitude. You understand? Maha, actually, we should really translate this Maha into, today I would translate this as a cool. It's great. It's a cool yana. You understand? It's a really it's a grand, it's amazing. And then as for the hardship, again the Bodhisattva went to the Buddha and asked, this Bodhisattva activity of chopping my limbs and feeding to hungry tigers, this is getting too far. This is painful. And the Buddha's answer was this: a mother who has only one child, she dreams, and in her nightmare, the only child, is being drowned or carried by a river. What will mother do? Jump in the river and by all means try to save the river, the current, the flow, the rocks, and the tree logs, and all this, the animals, all, no matter what, the mother will jump and save. And it will take long time, probably. Every second feels like a year. But it wasn't really happening. It's in the nightmare. It's in the dream. Just like that, a bodhisattva who understands the shunyata, the grand emptiness, benefiting the sentient being, is exactly like this. The duration, the hardship, the penance, all is illusion. So, what does this mean? 3 countless eons come eon. The teachings where it says 3 countless eons, it belongs to Cinderella department. Understand? These are the things that we need to sort of get used to. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we are getting a little bit too overwhelmed with these words? Okay, let's finish the first, chapter. The first chapter is, we can quickly finish today, but tomorrow we will dwell in a little bit more on Maha, and a little bit more again on Cinderella and non-Cinderella. You need to know this a little bit to understand the Mahayana. The Mahayana, it's the existence of the Mahayana, the wisdom of the Mahayana is really, it's like a life breath for the world. So important. Non-duality. Doesn't matter. 1,000 Donald Trump can come. But if we have the non-duality, no problem at all. We can sleep well. But the day when the non-duality is gone, 1 billion Obama cannot save. Nothing. Non-duality is so important. This non-extreme, non-duality, the grand view, the Maha view, absolutely important. Yeah, so actually, for the ordinary, okay. This is a bit of a difficult subject to cover tonight, but we will just begin. So for ordinary path dweller who cannot harmonize between wisdom and the method. Underline the word, who cannot harmonize wisdom and method. Okay, what does that mean? Who cannot harmonize with Cinderella and non-Cinderella. So what I'm saying is that Cinderella is important. You can't, you cannot, the mothers don't need Cinderella to sleep. Well, of course, when they were babies, they needed. But now they don't need it. But they don't have this arrogance of saying, okay, that's it, finished. No more Cinderella. They still use the Cinderella method to put their children to sleep. So harmonizing the relative truth and ultimate truth, harmonizing the view and the method, the wisdom and the method. For those who can do that, Mahayana becomes the supreme path. Otherwise, the path of the Mahayana is like a precious jewel that is being found by someone who doesn't know anything about precious jewel. For him or her, it is useless. And for those who can't have that kind of brave heart, they can't appreciate this kind of path. For those who can understand this, how should I put it? Those who can understand and appreciate this kind of those who can appreciate the benefit of union of wisdom and method, then the Mahayana becomes inexhaustible treasury box that will help oneself and the others. So this ends the first chapter out of, I think, 12 chapters. Okay, we'll try to sleep on this tonight, and then when do we start tomorrow? Really? And tomorrow 10:30. So please.
Please answer one question.
Yes.
You tried to state Shunyata, but still I didn't get it. If you can elaborate a little bit more.
I will try. Will you be here tomorrow?
Tomorrow I will try to be here.
Okay.
I'm being honest.
If you try to be here, I will definitely have to try harder to explain the Shunyata. But don't expect too much, because Shunyata, does the word Shunyata create goosebumps? Just teasing it. Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche, tonight for this profound and light-hearted teaching. Can we give a round of applause to Rinpoche?